All right, we started it. If you're watching on YouTube, we're gonna get started here in about 3 to 4 minutes, something like that. So, you might as well skip forward. What's up, Marvin? You might as well skip forward if you're watching on YouTube, because I'm not gonna be answering any questions for about 3 whole minutes. But we will get started right around 12:03 on our time. So that's, 2 minutes. If you're here live in the room. Um, If you are live, we got about 2 minutes, and if you're watching later, skip forward 2 minutes. Cool. Welcome everybody. Everybody's joining as a friendly face, so I won't give you the whole spiel, but this is Robert. I'm gonna go ahead and adjust my name real fast. So you know, we got a whole squad of people on this side as well. Hopefully we have some answers for you. Um, and if not, we can find them. We can certainly find them. So, all right. And like I said, for those of y'all that are in here, we're gonna get started right now in about 1 minute, 60 seconds. I just like giving people a moment to kind of pile in so they don't miss the context of a question, and we will get started. And thank you everybody for joining. I see we got a relatively full house, so I'm excited. We're gonna be doing some luncheon and some learning. Oh, it's 12:03, so I'm gonna get started. I'm not gonna hold anybody hostage. Hello, everybody. It's Robert. I appreciate everybody for coming in, both on the decision side and on the customer side. So, Um, I'm not going to give you the whole spiel because everyone in here has been in here before. We have a YouTube channel. We post all these. We have a solutions marketplace. We post solutions on there. New ones coming out the pipeline that I've been making content for. And the last thing I just do like to just kind of show because we don't talk about it much is we do have a decision support forum. You can Google it. It's probably the fast way to find it. But just be aware that on the support forum, you might find some answers if you type something in, as well as if you go down here to Lunch and Learn. I personally post every Lunch and Learn with the question, with the timestamp. So if you're like, oh, you go in here and you say, we'll find one I can type in easily. Let's just say this one, run a query. I don't know. But if you come in here, you type in that, run query. Hopefully we find that Lunch and Learn one. Of course not. But let's say hypothetically you found one that had a lunch and learn question in it, and you're like, oh, this kind of applies to me. All of these things are actually time-stamped links for the video. So if I click on this, it goes to that part in the video where we answer the question. So I want to start there. We did have some pre-submitted questions, so we're going to start there. And again, we got more people joining. Thank you very, very much. Marvin, I think I got you. I think I do, but I could be wrong about context. So I know I just spoke with Cody. I unmuted you. Um, I think we're good.
Okay,
CSS for sure is confusing. Maybe not confusing. CSS is particular. Let's put it that way.
right.
It's particular. So deciphering the email, I think we have you have a branded CSS file that you guys utilize, and then you want to utilize CSS on the timeline
Correct.
um, as well. Okay. And you were trying to find the timeline in how many is that a branded CSS file really, really big? It's got like probably a lot of entries on it.
It's big enough.
Yeah, yeah. So,
I
um,
did a scan through it and didn't find anything
correct.
related to timeline. I know it's a silver related object. Didn't find anything there,
Yeah.
you know.
I think I got you on this one. What am I doing here? Where am I?
And I
There we
know
go.
where to
So,
upload the documents and stuff, but I got a copy, so I don't even know what the original looks like or
yeah,
where
so,
to get the original.
Yeah, so I think you can just download them from here. Like you can download the original file. So let's
So is tomato the original or?
no, no, no. So so we're gonna hypothetically say that this tomato is your branded one because I know this is
Oh,
really big.
okay.
This is for a project that I'm working on that's
Okay.
like a mega project. It's like 200 something flows. But you can just imagine like, okay, this is the big old branded,
Right.
your branded one, right? It has tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of code. Okay. So I think conceptually here, um, let me see if I can present this full screen. So in the back, in the back end, on our
Mhm.
side, there's this base decision CSS that runs in the background. I don't know how many lines of code it is, but let's just say 1,000. I'm
Okay.
not sure. You don't see this. You don't want to edit this because then it could break everything. But like when you run a form or when you run a report, like we have to provide some tier of CSS so that HTML code looks presentable.
Makes
That is
sense.
provided by us. Let's say your branded CSS file, which again was that tomato, already has 50 lines in it. If it has those 50 lines in it, they might affect the font, the radio buttons, etc. It's only going to run those kind of on top of this thousand hypothetical
Okay.
thousand. So it runs your 50 branded plus your 950 base so that it has, those things kind of overwrite with a different priority, I believe they call it in CSS,
Right.
a
Okay.
priority on top of it. So um, your options are going to be a couple different things, and I'll maybe show to you indecisions. Your options are to download this branded CSS file and take that time and if in your 50 lines you don't have anything about timeline, you would just add it, like add a line break and then add it.
Well,
Um,
I didn't know if there was something original because somehow you had to get the blue and the orange to apply. So
yeah,
there might have been something.
that's in this one, and you're not going to
Right.
see that. It just
Okay.
runs on it's like kind
You
of a
just
hidden
won't see
file.
that. Okay.
Yeah, Gregory says you can find it, but it's not advised to mess with it, so I don't know how to.
That's fine.
Yeah. So you have your 50 lines, and let's say we want to add five more for timeline. You
Right.
can either download the CSS file, enter in a line break, and enter in the codes, and then reapply it so that you have one big old branded, one click applies all of your branding, or you can set a default,
Right.
or you could
Okay.
just have it as a separate CSS file, and I'll maybe show you both options here. Um, so let's go back over here. So again, we're going to pretend this is the large branded one that you have. I
Okay.
don't think.
Yeah, I don't have that particular.
But okay, so this one does. Let me think here. This one does have a couple in there, but let's go over here. And so if I don't have anything for timeline in here, it's going to default to the system level one.
Okay. Makes
Um,
sense.
Now, if I go to timeline CSS right here, I know like the tomato one, as tomatoes are, is like a red feature. So if I
Okay.
come down here to CSS, once I've added that sheet, and this timeline CSS is what I just got from Cody, the purple kind of ugly one, but if I can go on here and add, the tomato one, but because there's nothing about timeline in there, it's not going to affect
It's
that.
not going to affect it.
It's only
Correct.
going to affect this. But then I can come and add timeline CSS and it goes on to that one because that code does exist. So you can either have it as separate sheets, or if you wanted to, and I think Cody advised having separate ones is just easier to troubleshoot. Um,
Agreed.
but let's say hypothetically you wanted to go the other way, it would be something along the lines of this, where you would go system CSS. I can download this. Oh no, let's try update. No, let's download it. So I downloaded it. It opens it up here.
Mhm.
I should then be able to take my code from my timeline.
Mhm. Merge them,
Yeah,
etc.
and just merge them. Yeah. And then you can apply one. Let me see if I can get my other doc up here. Boom. Uh, and I'm not sure about let's see if we can find something that's close to
Yeah,
timeline.
now that looks more familiar.
Timeline. So let's just enter this in this world. Okay. Let's see if we can get this to work. So I got new merge CSS. Okay, so now let me go back to my decisions instance, wherever that is. and add that document called new merged CSS. And again, I'm not the CSS king here. I'm just being on it. I'm not even the CSS
Right. Just
court
the
jester.
functional. I can.
Yeah, I'm not even the jester of the CSS, but I'm a guy standing outside of the gates here. New merged. Did I save it? Oh, there it is. New merged CSS.
Now here's. Go ahead.
Oh, it
And
didn't.
it should.
It should, but I think maybe I got to mess with the hierarchy of priorities. But you are seeing that it is kind of
Right.
changing.
It's in the list, and you can.
Yeah.
Right. All
So
right.
in
Go
that
ahead.
CSS, one last. Sorry about that. There is a priority option. Again, I don't.
Right. I knew you can set it to important or whatever, and
Yeah.
you always forget which order is the priority.
I guess
I have to always
specificity.
look myself.
No, that ain't it. And I'm sure somebody in the chat probably knows this. Higher priority take precedence over the rest. Yeah, so it's just reading this stuff. The more specific selector takes precedent over the less specific one. So
Hmm.
it's just going to be again. I unfortunately don't know CSS all that well. It's probably something I should learn.
All right, that's fine. All right.
Oh, hashtag. So VT saying exclamation point important.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Quick question.
Of course.
How did you get the CSS to show up in your list? I see you've got all those.
Yeah.
Did
So you're gonna have because you're on 9. Is that correct? Version 9.
correct. Well,
I
version 9.
let me think if I even have a version 9 here. Give me a second to poke my brain real fast. Mm,
Because currently I only have our one branded file.
yeah.
Curious how you add additionals because I like the idea of keeping it separate. It's a lot
Yeah.
easier to find too.
So this is 9. Under designers, you can go CSS and just add a separate one that's just called timeline right here. And
Right.
again, yours should show up here. But again, on 9, you'll also have to just because of the dependency game. And it does make sense that
Right.
you don't want to get something to repo and not bring your CSS. And you're like, where's
Right.
this at? So it's also here under,
This is the step I'm missing.
yeah, it's here under maybe configuration. Give me a second to think here.
'Cause it was under designers for the other, but who knows?
Yeah, we'll find it. I figured it'd be under configuration. Yep, templates. There it is. So then from here, you just want to add that same document. So like, let's say training exercises, I'll choose that file called new merge CSS. It's not a CSS template file. What are you talking about? Oh, it's because the extension's probably bad. Let me just download one I already have. Timeline CSS. Yeah, I saved it as a text file, which is probably why it wasn't
So
working.
just in your project,
Yep.
go down
Project.
to manage, blah, blah.
Yeah, it's manage configuration templates CSS. And now that I'm here under tomato, I added that tomato, which is a large monolithic project I'm working on the backside here. Now if I go into any of these forms, let me see if I got one. And this is like, as you guys, this is the backside of that project that everybody else be working on. Let's see if I can just do it from here. Forms. I should be able to, when editing this, now that I've done that, there's tomato CSS.
Okay. That's what I need to do. That's what I'm missing.
Cool.
And I can test with it. All right. Thank you very much.
Yep. No, thank you, man. I appreciate the question and the early heads up. And it's nice to get one that I can kind of answer. So yeah, Jeremy, thank you. Yeah, you were ahead of me, but I wasn't looking at the chat. So yeah, Jeremy knew it. About it was under templates. You were right. Okay. So any other questions? Yeah, let's go ahead and keep on rocking, y'all. We got a relatively full house here. Um, if you got any questions, put them in the chat, put them in the QA. We can chat. We can be conversational. We got a couple people on this side of the line, and we got a bunch of people on your side of the line. So I'm here to explore however we want to explore. And if no one has a question, I can just maybe show off some something. go back to my local, and I'm on 8 because I'm working on a big old
How did you
project
get
here.
back to that original documentation you were talking about to look for the questions?
To look through the questions.
That initial spiel that you did at the very beginning.
Oh, it's you're talking about the support forum?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you just type in decision support forum, it's also I'll tell you decisions support forum. It's community.decisions.com.
Okay.
I'll put that in the chat for everybody. And I did get a question, so we're gonna yeah. And like I said, I update this super regularly. Also in the progress for those of you that are going through training, which I'm not sure. Looking at the names here, it doesn't ring with it, but I've been working on adding like training FAQs around certain projects, stuff that we get all the time. So going through and like people that might have problems like making a resource, but this isn't like fully live yet, but going through and being like, oh, what do people have problems with? Just making more resources on here, how to get comments on financial lending, how do you get the image viewers to work, just, making additional resources for people going through training. But again, um, it's not fully done yet, but it's something I've been working on in the last week or so. Like I said, this was last week, just trying to make a big old FAQ of all of our uh, common stuff. So we did get a question here. So I'm gonna bounce back over. Again, I'm on 8. Apologies. So Smithy, you said you're on 9, but we'll read the question. I'm trying to create an XML data structure. I can create one, but don't seem to see the serialize, deserialize steps in user-defined folder. I do see these steps for sample data structure when I downloaded the example. What am I doing incorrect here? Thanks. We are on version 9. Let's look at it together. See if we can figure that out. And if anybody has questions and you're just joining, because again we had 2 new people join, feel free to put in the chat in the QA. Kind of taking them in order here. So we're trying to create an XML data structure. You're on 9. Let's see if I can. I don't really want to mess with the training server. I just need to reinstall 9, but I'm working on a project. Let me think here. Cool. All right, so let's say hypothetically we're building a data structure, an XML data structure. Not sure where there it is. XML. All right, are there any settings we could be missing? No, no. Okay, so you already have and I'll unmute you, Smith, as well. I think I have some pretty good context, but I unmuted you. Yeah, so you're not seeing the serialized and the generic serialized, deserialized steps that exist in decisions. Those don't work for that structure.
Yes, when I created use, I can create the XML data structure, but after I create that, I would expect it to see it in the user defined, right? Uh, I did not see it for the one I created, but when I did download your example, and I do see it for that.
Hmm. The example was from Example Labs, potentially, like the
You're
example lab.
right.
Okay.
Yeah,
And that's on an older version. So, um, do these
it appears here, but what I was told is like, it's easier when you pick it up from your structure, right? If it happens to be there, then there is a better chance of getting it to work better. Or at least I've tried it with that and it
yeah.
works. So I was wondering why I wouldn't see it if I create a data structure. Is it the same thing for you? If you create a brand new one, would you not see that steps now?
Um,
I
let
do
me
see this from the deserialize, serialize. I do see it otherwise, but not
they're
from
under
that
user-defined
structure.
types.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might. So I know that a lot of that example lab stuff was made on like 6, and maybe those steps existed in 6, um, and it ported over that way. And now they're all the way up to 9. They just want people to use the generic one. I can write it. I know that we have some. Gregor, are you familiar with that concept? Do you think we got rid of the serialize, deserialize, user-defined type moving out of 6?
Use the define type. I think you should. Sorry, let me get rid of this echo.
And I'm writing it down. I'll go definitely talk with user defined XML, define, deserialize.
There we go. That's better. Um, you should be able to do it under XML type there, right? For the user defined type with a step.
Right. I don't have one built. I don't really have a nine that I feel comfortable messing with right now.
I guess I'm trying to understand is the ask whether you can just do it with any data structure?
Um, the question,
XML.
yeah, I'm interested particularly in the XML data structure. And if I pick any XML and try to create a structure, right, it does create, but I don't see those serialized, deserialized steps under the user defined. And I do see the structure, but not those things. And when I downloaded the example, I do see it there. So I was wondering if it's because of its version 9 or if I'm doing something different.
I don't think the serialize and deserialize would be underneath the user-defined type. I think that you would just input whatever type in the properties for the serialize or deserialize steps. When
Okay.
you're looking under user-defined types, it's usually actions for updating the entity itself, such as insert, create, delete, update, save, that sort of thing.
Okay, got it. Just because I saw it in your lab version, so I wanted to
Yeah.
know.
And a lot of these lab ones are from version 6, which is my guess that in version 6, maybe that serialized deserialized step was built into the structure so that when you kind of import that project, it would keep those steps. But in version 9 moving forward, they want you to use the generic system-wide XML. That's my first guess. But I'll both ask the documentation and someone on our side of the line. A documentation and someone on support that's been through that, and maybe I can build one. My problem is I just can't. This of training 02, the only version I have is like everyone's multi-tenant, and I don't want to mess with that system at all. All of our trainees. So as of right now, I don't have a nine that I can test it with, but I can definitely maybe install a nine after this and just verify that that is correct. But that's my first idea was on that
Okay,
one.
thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And like I said, I wrote it down, so I will get back to you. I see the
Sure,
Q&A is
thank you.
going off here. Oh, thank you guys all for the question. Serialized steps. Got you on there. Okay, so I'm gonna read the question. I'll unmute you while I'm reading for everybody else that's in the room. So it says, hello, I'm trying to set up a job that sends reminders every day to approver and submitter on the last 5 days before the end date of the contractor. For example, I have a form where the user selects the contractor end date and then submits it. If the contractor end date was selected as 10/25, then I'm trying to send the submitter a reminder 5 days before the end date starting 10/21/25 until they renew. That form is about to expire. Do you recommend using the scheduled job or assignment reminders? Ooh, that's a good question. Let me think here.
Ooh, yeah.
It's like a math word problem from math class. Okay, so let me just draw this out. So you have, and I think I unmuted you as well. You have a form where the user submits a date. You want to be able to send out some type of a reminder 5 days before that date. That's the short version of the question. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct. Every
Okay.
day before 5 days until they renew. And that's a completely different, but I just need to send them every day. For example, if 10/25 and they don't renew until 10/25, they will get a reminder every day that, hey, you haven't renewed. This form is going to expire.
Okay. Yeah, let me think here. I'm not sure if the scheduled job is going to work for you. New. I know there's a bunch of different versions here. I just trying to think of how we would parse that data from the flow. I'm looking through these flow options here. New email. Definitely, it's definitely not an Active Directory. It's definitely not a startup. So we're in scheduled or interval, or email workflow response, new scheduled calendar. So we're not gonna be able to parse that from the flow data. Let me think here. So potentially, I have to do a little more thinking here. Um, Potentially we could have a fetch that fetches that, and then a rule. You could have a scheduled job that runs every day, and then a fetch because you're going to be sending out. This isn't like a one time one customer. Like you might be sending out 5 a day, 10 a day, 20 a day, depends on the day, depending on how many contractors you have at the given moment.
Yes, that
Okay.
is correct.
All right. So I'm thinking. So what if we ran a scheduled where you fetch based on a certain criteria? And is there something in in that structure that's going to designate whether or not they have been paid, or like is it a pay thing? I'm trying to reread
Oh,
the prompt here.
renewed
Renewed.
the contractor. Yes, we do have
Okay.
like a one field
Okay.
that
Nice.
tells like, okay, they have renewed from the corporate directory.
Okay. So we could run a scheduled job,
Mhm.
run a scheduled job that fetches, and I'm also trying to think of performance implications here. Um, so okay, we're running a scheduled job that fetches whether a certain part of a data structure, the renew is negative or a Boolean false. Um, we'll get that data out, and then how can we easily send it? I mean, an option is just run a scheduled job every day. Okay, but then we need the logic to be if it's within
Mhm.
5 days, there's no email. So if it's like the third day before the renewal's up, you stop sending the email. What was the 5 day context?
So that's what I'm trying to do. So before, like for example, if they do it on 10/30th, then the reminder starts on the
25th.
10/25. So like the
Oh, okay.
5 days always before. So this way, like they're like, okay, it's about to expire, the contractor.
Okay. I think we're getting close there. Thank you for all that.
Yeah, it's
Um,
kind of confusing because I tried to build it from the reminders on the form, but that didn't work because I'm not trying to send them the form. I'm trying to tell them that, hey, it's expiring.
yeah, let's go with okay. So we're gonna say this is sent daily because I think that makes some kind of sense here. We're gonna run it every day, and then I'm gonna create a new flow. Can I do that from here? Let's just close this down, create a flow real fast, and then we'll go in and edit it. We'll call this daily contractor renewal. Daily contractor renewal. Okay, cool. I feel good about that. Oh, I'm in the same spot I was just at. Take a scheduled flow. Okay, let me just add a new flow over here somewhere. And if you're on version 9, this might look a little different.
I'm on version 8, so I think you're
Okay.
good.
All right, for now, we're just going to add this flow, go back over here, scheduled job, new scheduled flow. All right, we'll go ahead and edit the flow here in a minute. We'll say this is going to run every day. All right, we're running that every day. And then in here, so from here, we can fetch entities. All right, and we're just gonna I'm gonna do some different logic here, but let's just say just because I know we have a date structure in here, I'm gonna fetch all the accounts that were made within the last 5 days. So I can go, okay, wait, let me think here. Sorry again, created on date. Let's see. All right, so we have it created on date. We don't want it to be equal, so we go the created. So when you have that field, you'll have a
Hmm.
structure here that says like renewal date or something like that.
So I have an end date. That's what I usually go with. So if the end date is, for example, it's the end date. So
Hmm.
like the end date is the one that they select on the form. They can submit it even 3 days before.
Okay.
Does I don't know. It's kind of, how do I
No,
explain it?
it definitely makes sense.
Hmm.
Let's just build a quick structure. I think we can. I think I'm for sure we can get this right. We can get it 100%. Um,
Yeah, there's a start date and there's an end date for the contractor. And then once they renew it, the form, they change the date, and that's the renewal date that it populates then.
Stupid spaces.
Yes.
I gotta change that to a daytime and that contractor name. And we'll just say this is their email. It's a string. Is this okay for the fake structure we're making? Am I missing anything?
Start, I think you're missing the end date.
Okay.
That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know. All right, so we got end date, daytime, 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 two strings. I think we're good here.
Hmm.
All right. Hide my ugly yellow. Okay. And we'll go down here to user content. I'm just going to create some quick data. I know there's probably a faster way to do this, but what did we call that? Contractor renewal. Nice. Create contractor renewal. So let's create some quick data real fast. Build data. All right, we're going to call the email rob@test.com. We'll call the contractor name. Open. Dang it. We'll call it Rob. We'll make this end date a constant date. We'll make it November 14th. And these can just be pretty random, right? I mean, there's no real logic to this.
Mm-mm.
Constant date. We'll just say that's the same date, 14. And the start date, does that need to be before or after the end date?
And it always has to be before the start date. Yes.
Okay, so we'll call this constant date time and we'll make this November 10th. So that's before it. All right, cool. Happy with that. Let's make 2 or 3 records here. Done. Second one. All right, and we'll do one last one here. And we'll just do. All right, so we got all the data. All right, happy. All right, so let's do that fetch and just make sure we're getting that data. And if we are, then we can then figure out how to parse it out. I think we'll be good here in just a few moments. So we're saying, all right, we're going to fetch based on, I already forgot what I called it, something like contractor. Nice. All right, so let's just get that data out and make sure we're getting those 3 entries. Love it. All right, so we're getting the data. All right, so this is scheduled job's going to run every day. So we need and what are we going by? The renewal date?
By the end date.
By the end date.
Yes. When it's 5 days before the end date starts reminders. Yes.
Yeah. My only thing that I'm thinking now is how do we get that to be dynamic from the data? Is there a from flow option? No.
I'm wondering if we can do like either greater than, less than in the rules, and then before this fetch, we have something that calculates something either 5 days in the future or 5 days in the past that we use to compare it to as our filter.
That
Or should,
sounded smart. No,
or sh
yeah. So maybe we do just fetch everything, and then we just, rather than trying to build it into the fetch criteria, we just get everything. Let me break this off because I'll break this off. All right, so we're getting everything. We're getting all contractor renewals. Let's say maybe it's a four each might be our best. And then for every record that comes out of this list of contractor renewals, for every record, we're going to get entity results here. We're going to say, okay, now we're looking at each one individually. We're going to have a rule that says less than date. And then we can say, okay, we want our first date to be, yeah, I think we're on here. And again, apologies. It was renewal date we're talking about here. Is that right? Renewal. And then we can calculate compute date. Oh, see, okay. Start date, we can get that. We just want it to be, and I always get confused. It'll take a little bit of troubleshooting because I always get confused when you're doing less than and greater than with date, and then you have in the past, so it's less than the past or less than the future or greater than the future or greater than the past. It'll take a little bit of troubleshooting here, but I think you could then go offset constant and make this 5 days, and we'll debug and put some data in there to verify it. So if it's not, we're going to go to the false. When we're done, we're going to go here. And then are you sending an email reminder? How do you want them to be notified? Indecisions or a email?
Email, yes.
Okay. All right. So we can then send an email from me. I don't have my SMTP set up, but we can just imagine. To, we'll have to build an array and then select from flow. We can go to item, their email address, constant. Here it is. Please pay us kind of thing, whatever the prompt is. And then when we're done, we will go back. So it'll come. So we're gonna get all entities. And every day we're gonna get every single contract that we have. We're then gonna look at each one individually. We're gonna assess the date and say, is it is that renewal date within, not within, or with, is it, let me, for example, oh, it's within 5 days. If that renewal date is within 5 days, we're going to send the email. If it's not, we're going to end. No, we don't want this to go. We don't want this
Uh,
false to go this way. We want the false to go back to this. Because then we'll go to the next record. Okay. Yep. Okay.
I think, okay, I was just confused. So the renewal date is the one that checks that, hey, stop sending them if they have already renewed. But end date is the one like,
Okay. End date. Yeah.
yes, to make
Sorry.
sure.
Apologies. No, yeah. Okay.
No worries, no worries.
Okay. So let me fix one thing then. So is that, because I already put a Boolean in there. I already put data in it. Um, you could just imagine. So instead of this as well, you could put another rule. I'll also have to make a generic one that's like a true. Is your renewal a Boolean? Like the renewal, or is it a date? Like when someone renews, is
Hmm.
the system notified via a Boolean or some other
It's a
process?
date.
It's a date.
Yeah. And then I have that validation kind of set up. It's
Okay.
just that 5 day reminders is giving me a really, really hard time.
Yeah. I'm just making a fake rule. I know you said you already have this, so I'm just gonna make a quick one just to kind of maybe draw some of this logic out. So I get a true false path off of this. So if if the renewal date hasn't passed yet, we'll go to that rule. And if it's not, we're going to go back to this. Then we added in essentially a new, I'm gonna have to kind of draw
Yeah.
this out. So
So
we're
for
going,
example, if the 1025 was the end date and they already renewed on 1023, so the system will recognize it because they go into the form and actually choose a new renewal date. So it'll stop at 1023 because this form has been renewed because it will run every day, this job.
cool.
Uh, Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think
Okay, okay,
so.
okay.
Yeah. So, let's see the chat's going. James, I saw your message. Thank you. I'll unmute you here in a second. We'll talk through that too. I just want to finish my brain thought here. Fetching all entities, looking at each one individually. Has the renewal date passed or not? If it's true, it goes to the next one. If it's false, it'll go to this. And then we have a rule saying, hey, is it within 5 days? If it's within 5 days, it's going to send an email. And if it's not within 5 days, it's going to go to the next one. So I think this world is where I know you said that it's causing a lot of confusion. It's going to take a little bit of it's going to take a little bit of debugging and a little bit of troubleshooting. But I think it's going to be in you're going to want to build out in this world a schedule job that runs every day. Let me pull that back up so it's a little cleaner. Does this, let's see if we can just adjust the name on this renewal, something like that. Oh, that's ugly. Um, it'll go back here. If not, it'll go to the less than date. And then we're going to say, is that item's end date within 5 days of the current date and time? And then if true, we're going to send an email. And if false, we're going to go down this path. It's just going to take a little bit of troubleshooting. And I don't know if I'll be able to debug it because I'm not going to be able to enter that data in because like when I debug, I have no input data. So do you have a sandbox that you could work in with some test data to kind of run it through it?
Mhm.
I know that testing is as important as building, but it's
Mhm.
hard for me to test it out. But I would say it's gonna be in this world where you're gonna basically have
Gotcha.
fetch
Mhm.
them all, look at them individually. Has the renewal date passed? If it has, then you're just going to go back and run to the next one. If it hasn't passed, you're going to say, is that date within 5 days of the item's end date? If it's true, send an email. If it's false, we go back and go to the next one. And you could run this every day and you could
Mhm.
parse out that data that way.
Gotcha. Yeah, this gets me a good template. I was trying to build it. Is it possible, like, oh, you guys upload this to the YouTube, right? And
Yep.
I'll be able to follow it. Mhm.
Yep. And I can even, if you're on 8, I will gladly just bounce this out and email it to you.
Okay, yeah, I'll just leave my email in the chat so this way I can have that template. That would be
Yeah.
great. Thank you
I,
so much.
I already have your email, so don't worry about putting it in the chat.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you so much, Robert.
Yeah, no
Appreciate
problem.
it.
All right. And then James, I'm going to let you, because I know you built something out. Thank you for your patience and everybody. James, if you want to speak, you said you found it's much quicker to run a defined SQL with the needed logic with a where clause rather than to fetch entities in a for each loop. You're saying it's more performant?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I had a similar, very similar thing. It wasn't about excuse me.
Okay.
Wasn't about emailing, but something similar where I needed to grab just a limited number of entities, and then I was looping through it like that, and I just through the debugger, it was obvious that that took a while.
Yeah.
Um, so what I did is I ended up writing a SQL with the where clause that satisfied the for each loop. And then you don't need to fetch entities or the for each loop. You just run that SQL.
Yeah.
And you can pass it parameters too, like your dates that in this case. And it will select exactly what you're for eaching right there and return it in the entities.
Yeah, I like that as well. I'm not super competent with the raw SQL, and I know there's some you got to be careful with the raw SQL. So I know that and maybe someone else could fill in the gaps there on that, but it's just one of those things that as soon as you start putting raw SQL steps in, And it might be good for you and and all, if you're comfortable with it, I would definitely do it in a sandbox first and run some tests. But just be aware, like this is kind of a direct
Yeah.
in and out to your
And
table.
again,
And
I wouldn't use it to update anything, but I'm using basically the fetch, the
yeah,
limited fetch. So instead of fetching and then looping through,
yeah,
you can do all that in just one SQL.
like a select
Select where.
contractor renewal, where, that kind of thing.
Exactly. And then you're basically the return of your SQL is just those entries you want to send your email to. So
Yeah.
you just take all that and that list and basically populate your two in your email, and you got basically two steps.
Oh no.
One is the fetch and one's the email.
Yeah. So yeah, so for Manal, if I'm not gonna, let's see, where is it at? Creator. He's saying something along the lines of you could build a raw SQL step, and in that command you could do something along these lines where you're actually, let me just do it over here. Contract.
Yeah, you have to be able to, and this is the just the edit
Yeah.
query. You have to do it against the database. I mean, you have to be able to pass it parameters. So you have to set it up as a just like you would a external entity, but you're going against the local database.
Right.
You have to build it so you can put parameters. With this here, you can't put parameters in it.
Okay. But in the SQL step I can, is what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
I mean, if you build your SQL with parameters, you can pass those parameters in your SQL step because
Nice.
it'll create basically just like when you create a SQL, I mean, an add query is what I'm talking about. When you add a query to a database
Uh-huh.
and it puts it in the internal databases, and then you find that database and then it lists all the queries that are there. It'll do that same thing against the local database, and you'll have your fetch, you'll have your all your um, like your get all and whatever those query definitions are that that it standardly gives you for a database connection
Yeah.
for that SQL.
Yeah, I definitely need to brush up on my SQL thing, but that might be when I send you the email with the export, I might try and do a little bit of typing up or
Yeah, I can probably send you a little
yeah,
like
that'd be nice,
test
James. I would appreciate that.
project that does that, just so you can see how I accomplish that. But it was so the only reason I bring it up because there's more than one way to skin a cat. The
Yeah,
only
yeah,
reason I brought that up is because I noticed a vast, I mean
yeah,
vast, um,
yeah,
performance issue with doing the for each versus just running the SQL against that entity.
yeah. And I really do appreciate everyone. I know, both James in here, VT. I try and treat these lunch and learns like a lunch and learn for me too. It's more of a learn. My lunch is after this, but I think I've probably learned more in these lunch and learns than I've learned in training. So yeah, it's something that I can probably poke around with, and I'll add it to my repertoire. Um, Coming out. But I do know that generally speaking, we try to advise against it. But like you said, with performance implications, and sometimes it's just easier, especially like you said, if we're not updating and we're not,
Yeah, if it's
you
just a
know,
fetch,
yeah, if it's just a,
it is your own entity in this case, right? It's something you created,
right.
and you're just interrogating that entity, and you're just wanting to grab some specific data off it. So rather than do all the steps of a fetch and for each through it, you
Yeah,
can just do it all in one SQL, because that's basically all fetch is anyway. It's just fetching. It's just very limited in what you
correct.
can fetch.
Yeah, yeah. And even I was talking with somebody this morning. Um, oh wait, is it in here? I'm trying to think of where I saw it, but um, I think it's in this. But somewhere I saw earlier that it says like fetch entities essentially is just like it said like fetch entities is the most simplified raw SQL command.
It is,
Yeah.
and especially when you're dealing with dates like she's doing, it's very, very limited. You can't do like between dates or dates after or things like that. You can look for a date or like a date that doesn't equal something, but you can't get real specific with your variables.
Yeah, with the go ahead, Greg, please.
Oh, I was gonna say I might have got something that kind of combines both of the methods. If I
You
can,
go, yeah, let's please. Yeah, let's learn them.
yeah, let me share my screen here real quick. Wrong screen. Here we go. So, am I sharing the right screen?
Correct. I said send reminder.
Yep, cool. All right. So I'm getting the date currently just using this step here, and I'm adding 5 days to it. And then I pass that in to a modified. I didn't create the other structure, the renewal structure. I just use the account to test this. But the modified date is less than or equal to this is going to basically only return entities that are within that 5 day window to be able to use in the first place and add the other criteria, the not is active, but is renewed, is not renewed, right? As the other one that you can put in as a constant. And then you just pass the results along to where they need to be emailed after that. Am I
Yeah,
missing anything here? I'm not
yeah,
sure.
that's actually very smart. Yeah, I think it would be 5 days in the. No,
It's
yeah, you're right. Well,
yeah,
5 days within
it
now.
took me
Yeah.
a little bit to figure that out too. It's 5 days in the future, less than or equal to.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because if it's less than 5 days in the future, it's within the next 5 days.
Hmm.
Correct. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we're time traveling.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
So the
they'll
logic.
only hit once you actually hit that 5 days, because otherwise, if you do it, 10 days ago and you add 5 days to it, this new end date is still not less than those 5 days. So,
Yeah. So you have today. We're on timeline here, like this is Avengers or something. Timeline, and then we have 5 days in the future. So then we have this 5 days in the future. So then we're looking for anything less than 5 days. Yeah. So this 5 days,
yep.
so, yeah, because this 5 day window is going to essentially go back to here. So then we're saying any of these 5 days. If it's less than 5 days in the future, it'll be any of these days. Um, and it'll send an email on those. So yes, your logic is better than mine. But what if we needed something like this, but only 5 business days? Ooh,
Ooh,
ooh.
ooh.
Let me
Yeah,
think.
that's a good. Manal, we ran into that a while ago, right? Wasn't that a DT with getting business days using that as a step? Was it you that I worked with or someone else that was with KM?
I think it was someone else.
Okay. Because I remember that being a problem. We actually have a step for this. Get business days between for location, but there's a problem with the step and I don't know if it's been fixed yet. So
Yeah,
we may not be
because
able to use that.
I tried to look that up, and then on the schedule job, when you set it up, it does say like respect business days, but I also couldn't find like a step that says like a step rather than just putting it in the job. But I can do it in the job where I say, hey, don't run
Mm.
it on the.
Oh, that's true.
Mhm.
Yeah, then you can just set that up in the job logic and not with this step. Someone, another support member will let whoever that was know from KM with y'all when this gets fixed. Yeah, that's all I got.
All right. I think we are coming up on time. I'll gladly take another question if someone's got it, but I know that I think we've answered all the QA and chat questions. And again, I'm appreciative for everyone's input. I kind of have learned to look forward to these lunch and learns because I be learning. But it's been nice. So unless we got any final questions, which again I will gladly take it. But if we don't have any, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up so I can get that project exported and all this stuff on YouTube and all that stuff. Um, any questions for me? Oh, I think someone's popped up. Decisions does not calculate when Thanksgiving Day is. I don't. That's a good question. I
Ooh, yeah, you can
I mean,
set up for holidays per. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You talk. You talk.
no, go ahead, Greg. Come on.
You can set up with holidays per location or region that you put in manually. So when you assign certain users to use different locations, it will count those as holidays within the system. I don't know if it knows automatically what Thanksgiving Day is, though, without that configuration.
Yeah, no context. I would say you can make constants of like a couple constants called holidays, but somebody needs to change it every year. True. Because Thanksgiving is that one of those like third Thursdays of the
Something like that. Yeah.
yeah.
That Easter's got to be a burden to try and figure out.
Yeah. Um, yeah. There's probably a way you could sync up with a calendar, like some type of API, like call a Google Calendar in some weird way. But again, that's just kind of that's an interesting question. I'll think about it. We'll think about it. Um, yeah, it would have to be some type of added calendar where somebody else would do that logic. Yeah, because it would be brutal to make a flow. I mean, that'd be a huge flow just calculating all. And we have lots of APL calls every day. Yeah, right. Um, yeah, not too sure how to do it off the top of my head, but we'll think about it. We'll come back with it tomorrow. I'll maybe interrupt Jeremy's session tomorrow with my logic on calculating holidays with the least amount of resistance. But um, for today, we'll go ahead and call it. I appreciate everybody coming in. Like I said, it'll be on YouTube here in about 20 minutes, 30 minutes. So you did create a flow for creating DST. Nice. Cool. All right. Thank you, everybody. We're going to go ahead and call it a day. Appreciate everybody. See you tomorrow.